You know what? So going back to the Marquesas from the Tuamotus, it's amazing because, of course, you go from those flat coral atolls to these beautiful, majestic mountains that are laden with fruit, and it's just magic. It's just been so much fun being back here. I mean, we've only been back 3 weeks,
and there's nobody there. There's no boats there.
Well, you know what? It's very. So tonight was the first time that we actually met other cruisers and actually had dinner with them, because up until now we've been by ourselves in the anchorages, like there's nobody here.
Incredible.
So it's a whole different world than when we all arrived in March. You know, it's very, very quiet. But you know what? It's been so nice. It's very relaxed. It's really, really, yeah.
So you've been in Hapatoni?
So so we were in Hapatoni for 2 weeks, and now we just moved north to Hanamanamia, you know, the nice bay there. Yeah, so we're just here in Minnow Swam with some manta rays today. And so really pretty. And
you saw a whale come into the bay with a calf, and
it was amazing. It was just amazing because we were just sitting there, and then everybody started just screaming, "Balin, Balin!" And the whale, he was probably there for what, 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, maybe 15.
Probably
15
10
minutes,
or 15 minutes, just playing in the bay with her baby calf. It was magical. And Hapatoni is only 60 people that live in the village. And we were there for 2, so we got to know everybody. I don't know. It was really nice. It was very, very nice.
Yeah. That's where we all went for a traditional meal. The local community put on a traditional meal there for us. But there were about 60 cruisers at this meal.
Probably at the community center. Yeah. Very, very nice community. So nice. Yeah.
And you're back to having pamplemousse.
Yes. We've had pamplemousse, we've had soursop, we've had mangoes, we've had
star apple.
Bananas. It's just amazing. Compared to the Tuamotus, we are just laden with fruits. It's lovely.
Yeah. I just love the pamplemousse. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And we had a similar experience with a guy asking us if we wanted fruit, and then he drove us around to his place and his mate's place and piled us up with fruit, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
It was fantastic.
It's nice, isn't it? It's just, it's lovely. Really been lovely. It's nice being back here. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I like your necklace, Val.
What?
I like your necklace.
Thank you. I got this in Hapatoni.
Very
beautiful. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Good morning, Alexandra. Okay, must be good evening with you guys, is it? Yes, must be. Yeah.
Here, 8:30. We're 8:30 tonight here.
8:30.
Oh, I've got my drink.
It's Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Friday.
It's Thursday.
No, we're having.
What's Thursday
Have
here?
you changed your day? It's supposed to be a Thursday thing, or is it Thursday and Friday?
No, we forgot last night.
We forgot.
So we're having Martini Thursday on Friday. So it's Martini steak Thursday night. So we're having steak and martini.
Well, it's Thursday here, so
it's Thursday here, so I'm still drinking.
And what is it where you are, Simon? It's 6 in the morning. No, 7 in the morning. 5 in the morning.
We are 7 in the morning. In a terrible act of organisation, I was up till 2 o'clock last night doing a. Did you come across the guys on Camdibu? Verna and I can't remember the lady's name, but a lovely couple. And he wrote to me a week or 2 ago saying that he's been asked to do a presentation to the not Polynesian, but to the heads of Pacific police forces on suspicious behaviour of yachting activities. So he and I have been working on that for the last couple of weeks. How I got roped into it, I have no idea. But we were up until 2 o'clock in the morning presenting to these police officers in Rarotonga, which is fascinating. Really interesting hearing it from the enforcer's perspective, saying, what about all these yachts that are coming here and abusing these false distress rules, and which was an issue in Galapagos, I remember. And actually, the OCC had a bit of an issue with people in Easter Island during lockdown because people were falling the wrong side of the rules and saying, they'd got a broken engine or something and they hadn't. So interesting hearing their perspective on cruises. And they're wanting cruises really to have a mechanism for reporting suspicious behavior, particularly drug enforcement. And wondering how that could be communicated. So yeah, interesting, but terrible act of scheduling. So I went to bed 4 hours ago.
And then the alarm went off.
On that policing point, the reason cruisers do that is because police, customs, and authorities often don't respect their legal obligations under the right of free passage, right of innocent passage. You're entitled to go through a country's waters and anchor in them without incurring any fines or any trouble at all, but they don't seem to realize this. So you have to invent a story that I've got a problem, whereas in actual fact, you're perfectly entitled to stop. It's a legal right that you have. It's an IMO right. It's called the right of innocent passage. But most police officers, customs, harbour authorities, I've either never heard of it or they simply don't want to know. No, it doesn't apply in this country. But
well, there was, I think it was Idalina. I think it was Idalina, the boat that sank, and they weren't abusing their right of passage at all. They just happened to be sailing through the Galapagos, but they were intercepted on passage and forced to kind of do not an about turn, but a 90-degree turn to against the wind to sail 40 miles offshore.
There you go. You see, so that the country doesn't have the right to do that. If they're a signatory to the IMO, the United Nations, which virtually all of them are, I think it's only Iran. I think it's Iran and China or something, and not something like that.
Interesting.
So they're breaking the law. So
well,
when they start yachtsmen, I find that's a bit much.
And of course, the guy who, I've forgotten his name, Peter, the guy who invented the rock anchor, Peter Smith, Kiwi, he went through the whole Northwest Passage during lockdown, being pursued by the Canadian authorities, and that's exactly what he claimed. But the Canadians weren't having any of it, and he actually made a break and ran all the way from Pond Inlet on the eastern side of
It was known to Pond Inlet.
He went all the way to Portugal. He went all the way to the Azores in order to avoid arrest.
It was when the Canadians were very worried about the vulnerability of the Inuit from COVID as well, actually. So they didn't want any vessels stopping in the Northwest Passage. And obviously it was quite unusual for someone to just go through without stopping. So I think that was part of it as well.
So he has the fastest record for
a transit.
Single-handed, non-stop transit pursued by
Canadian
enforcers. Yeah, but it's an issue. It's an issue, isn't it, about how yachts are actually starting to be perceived or are perceived by local people as well as authorities. We had a very interesting conversation with the manager or the deputy manager of Rare Marina, who was a French lady who'd arrived as a cruiser as a 7 or 8 year old, so had been brought up as in Tahiti, I think, and she was saying, but you guys, the people, the local people perceive cruisers as being
gypsies,
kind of gypsies or travelers, and of course that's not the perception we have of ourselves, but it's an interesting take on how we go down in the communities that we are sailing through. So delighted to hear, Valerie Meno, that you've got empty anchorages and you haven't got people coming out shouting at you on speedboats anymore. But that was certainly happening a few months ago in the anchorage on the north side of Nukuhiva, wasn't it? Anaho Bay, where they were getting very fed up with cruisers and had imposed a limit of 10 boats in there. Without actually telling anybody. So there were 25 boats stacked up in Anaho Bay when we were there.
That must have been because there was strong southerly. Because
there was strong southerly.
There was. But it was our first landfall on Nukuhiva, and we had no idea that this restriction was in place. And actually, when you get there, where are you going to go? If the weather's not good, you don't want to go anywhere. But
have
it's
fantastic.
interesting that we are seen as gypsies by the local population. And this lady was saying how things have changed so dramatically since she came to French Polynesia as a kid, and how it is much more restricted now and much more difficult to cruise than it used to be. But yeah, in some places we are seen as riffraff, as you know.
Have you guys come across any aggravation? I know there's the kind of increasing bureaucracy over whether, or restrictions about whether you can use moorings or whether you can anchor. I think the moorings that were in that you sorted it for us, Richard, in Huahine are now out of bounds. They've stopped cruisers using.
They in theory, you're only supposed to spend 2 nights there anyway. And there was always a bit of an issue over those moorings. But what they're saying is that, well, first of all in Tahiti, the 2 marinas and all the moorings, the outfit that runs that are basically losing the franchise, and it's all being put out to tender. So that's and the reason for that is that there's loads of empty moorings and loads of berths, and there's no one in them and no revenues, and the yachts are piling up in the airport anchorage and complaining like mad because it's so badly run. So that's what's happening in Tahiti. And then the other thing that the French Polynesian government's doing is they're going to take Bora Bora as a template. So in Bora Bora, there are very few places you can anchor. You have to pick up a mooring, which is $25 US dollars a night. I think it's
$30. I think 30.
Maybe it's $30 US dollars. Was it 40 actually? I can't remember. It might even be $40 a night. You can only anchor for 1 night.
Or 36 hours.
Yeah, or 36 hours. But so basically, you can arrive in the morning and you have to go by the end of the afternoon. And so, unless you can afford, I'm sure it's $40 a day. Unless you can afford $40 a day, you can't stay in Bora Bora, except for 1 night. And
Sorry,
they are taking that.
Just say it again, Richard. You can anchor for 1 night, but you have to go onto a mooring after that. Is that? Yeah.
They're only allowed, and they don't, and because there's very limited anchorages, they don't like you going from a mooring to an anchor and then back to a mooring and back to an anchor. They don't like that game being played. And it's basically 1 mooring company, and it's very efficient. It's very well run. The moorings are in very good condition. The mooring guys are lovely. And for that fee, they take your garbage, and they're very friendly, and you're very welcome to be there. But it's very,
and they'll tell you about, the other anchorage over there has got thus and such, or you can see manta rays over. I mean, they're very informative as well.
Yeah,
they're really good. It's a good service.
It's a good service, but it's relatively expensive. And they have now decided they're going to roll it out through the whole of French Polynesia, even including the Marquesas. They're going to be putting moorings in. There'll be no anchoring at all, and they will control it. And it's basically going to rule poor people out from going to French Polynesia. And there is some intent behind that, because there are too many yachts visiting, as far as they're concerned. Yeah. Too many sometimes in the wrong places at the wrong time. So when that blow came through a couple of months ago, the airport anchorage in Tahiti, there were boats everywhere. There was carnage, and people, because they can't get in the authorized anchorage, are going to other places. There was one boat was fined.
Dragging into
one
each
boat
other.
was fined $6,000. Another one that left on a mooring they thought was approved. They went to the States. They came back. They had a $14,000 US bill, and their boat impounded. And the boat was moved, and they claimed their boat was damaged when it was moved. So they put in a counterclaim, but that was dismissed. So that was $14,000. So yeah, and they're basically saying there's too many boats coming through at the wrong time in the wrong places. So they're going to copy the Bora Bora way of doing things. But equally, they are aware that in Tahiti in particular, it's poorly run. So they're putting that out to tender to get other people to run it.
It's interesting, because chatting with this lady, this assistant manager in Raiatea, she was normally a charter skipper on skipper charter boats. And she said that the charter boats were going to be impacted exactly the same. So she was really worried about where they go with their charter boats. she said at the time that we spoke to her that they weren't putting any more moorings in, like you say, that people wouldn't be allowed to anchor. And the only thing they were advertising for were people to actually police what was going on. So, but she reckoned it would take quite a bit longer before it was all set up and running. So she didn't think it was that imminent because they just wouldn't get everything organised. But yeah, she was getting really worried about the charter boats, and because she said they would be under the same restrictions.
I think it's a matter of intent. This is what they intend to do. The timeline might be open for debate. But if they're not careful, they'll end up like the British Virgin Islands, where you have boaty ball, and in theory you can book individually each mooring by its serial number in each location. And to do that, you know, I've been there at 5 minutes to 7, refreshing my browser, and I find by the time it comes to 7 o'clock, there are no moorings available. They're all booked by the charter companies. And when you book your charter catamaran for a week or two, they just include the moorings with it, and they book them for you. They ask, where do you want to go? And they'll pre-book the moorings, and they have a way of doing that with boaty ball. That means there are very, very few moorings left for ordinary cruisers. So Lady and Raiatea, I think probably the reverse is the problem. There's the charter boats, they'll be all right. It'll be the cruisers that don't get the moorings. But as I say, I think it'll be years before they actually really implement it. They've implemented it in Bora Bora, but then again, you know, they call it Bora Boring because there's not a lot to do there. So you wouldn't want to stay 2 weeks in Bora Bora anyway, probably. Right. And if you go on, and then you know, you go on to where we went to, what was the name, Maupiti, which is how Bora Bora used to be. So Maupiti, there's no moorings, there's no hotels, there's a couple of very small restaurants, and the Maupitians won't allow any developments. There's literally nothing there. You can anchor, stay as long as you like. The
people are super
and
friendly.
It's beautiful, stunning place, and
it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's got a very difficult, well, relatively difficult pass.
Pass is hard.
Bora Bora, you can get in, and you get a US aircraft carrier into Bora Bora. Well, in fact, that's why they did. That's why the Americans blew up the pass, to get aircraft carriers into Bora Bora. Maupiti, there were 6 locals killed, drowned a while ago, and even the ferry won't go in there sometimes. So yeah, but it's just, you know, I think the French have reacted to there being too many boats at the wrong time, but it'll be all right.
Well, it's interesting because come in many different varieties, so I can understand the perception that cruisers are all gypsies or whatever, and you know, you see the odd boat that looks like a boat that, you know, is in very poor condition, and they've been cruising their whole lives, and that's just who they are and what they're doing, but they then abuse the system or don't have the resources to be able to keep up with the maintenance on their boat. So it just looks a mess, and they don't then follow the same rules as normal cruisers. I mean, I think we're exceptional cruisers. We've got the means to do that, but not everybody does. So, you know, it's a wide range of people who cruise.
And
if they call up
disposal of waste, holding tanks, etc., you can people do take liberties with that. Are the people who run the mooring in Bora Bora, are they operating any kind of pump out?
No, there's nowhere to go alongside in Bora Bora. Apart from the fuel station.
They don't have a barge that goes around with a pump out or anything like they have in the Chesapeake.
No chance. Yeah. But if they think that we're gypsies, I wonder what they would call a cruise ship with 6,000 people on, doing exactly the route. Yeah. Exactly the same. So I really don't think that they've got licks to stand on where that's.
I think the other thing about French Polynesia is the locals mainly seem well supported by France and don't need the tourism of the cruisers, you know. Whereas other places we've been, I mean, obviously Galapagos is all about tourism and is very well controlled, but there, the local people, they want the tourists, whereas you kind of get the feeling, yeah, I mean, the hospitality in places is fantastic, but I think they don't have a need for us in the same way in a lot of places.
Well, yeah, but most boats don't stop in Galapagos. It's the minimum you could get away with would be $3,000 to stop in Galapagos, and a lot of people just say, "No, can't be bothered. I'm gonna pay that."
It's a lot of admin and work to be able to get yourself in there.
But there was something we had that was quite telling in Huahine, where your boat is. You know, we were anchored on the other side.
They take to the
Was it Ray? Sorry, was it Raiatea? Hang on, I'm getting this confused. Raiatea. So it's Raiatea where your boat is, where your boat's. And we were anchored on the other side.
Yeah.
And that, in theory, is somewhere where you're only allowed to anchor for 1 night or 2 nights. And we've got some friends on another lagoon, a lagoon 50, who've been hanging around for 2 years, something like that. And we said, well, what's the story with anchoring here? And they said, it's very simple. You can stay as long as you like because you have a nice boat. If you've got some ancient rusty steel boat, they don't want. They will ask you to move because those are the boats that people abandon and leave and end up being a problem. So basically, if you've got a nice yacht, like the 3 people on this call, like Eyra, absolutely no problem.
Interesting.
But if you look like penniless hippies living on nothing at all, they don't want you at all.
If your boat looks like it is dangerous or it doesn't have, is not kept up to standard, then they'll move you on because they don't want you to be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been down to Grenada and seen the boats down there. It's absolutely disgusting. It's shocking. There must be, I don't know, I'm going to guess 100 cruising boats. A lot of them, and I'm married to an American, so I'm going to say this. A lot of them have retired Americans whose pensions go an awful lot further in Grenada. And the boats are wrecks. And they live on these boats. And eventually they get sick. They get fed up with it. They leave the boat, perhaps intending to come back, and it's just abandoned. It's a steel boat or a wood boat. We
saw a boat that had been left. It went on fire. And then it was in the anchored in the, or tied in the mangroves to 2 or 3 other all cruising yachts with people on them. It went up in flames, and then successionally the other 3 boats next to it all went up.
And none of them had engines that worked. None of them been anywhere for years, and they were basically lived on by ancient Americans and some Europeans they were just slowly sinking. Slowly degrading.
Sounds like Key West or Marathon. We're heading exactly the same situation there.
Same problem in the Moran in Martinique, but the harbour master there is quite cute. And he's basically said he's put photos up of all the, I think there's about 30 suspect boats, and he's after the ones that are still afloat because he's saying I can deal with those because they're still afloat. They don't cost me anything. The moment they sink, they cost me a lot of money. So basically he's seizing boats and saying, if you leave some crappy old boat, I'm basically going to seize it. I'm going to take it ashore. We're going to pull it out. A JCB is going to put its digger bucket through if it's glass fiber, and it will be scrapped. And I don't care who the owner is. If you leave it here, that's it. And this is what the Polynesians, French Polynesians, are worried about.
That's the story behind that boat on the reef in Huahine, wasn't it? It was a ferroconcrete boat that had been pretty much abandoned, acquired by a local who just left it on a mooring, and it ended up on a reef, and presumably it's still there and will be there for the next year or 2 years. It was concrete, wasn't it? So not going anywhere fast.
Anyway, I want to hear about Tonga.
Tonga.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Tonga. All right. So let's change tack here. So first of all, we left.
We're going to stop boat shaming.
We left Maupiti, and we had planned to stop in. First of all, so we planned little steps. Yeah. So we planned to go to Maupiti, which is 450 miles. Then we were going to go to what's the name of that?
Atutaki.
No, we were going to go to. No, sorry, we were going to go to Atutaki, and then the British, the same Henderson, Palmerston, and then Palmerston to Niue, and then as we were going along, we knew that they were dredging the harbour in Atutaki. What we didn't know is that there were 4 boats in there, and we got into contact with them, and they said, "Oh no, there's absolutely no room that even 4 boats is too many. 3 is tops. So we could not go to Atataki, and there were people.
But then there was a note
there
that went out that said,
yeah, there were people.
Nobody, please come to.
There was a
don't
note
come
sent
to
out
Atataki.
from the Cook Islands government saying to yachts, don't go to Atataki. So we couldn't go to Atataki, and that means we can't stop at Palmerston, because you can't stop at Palmerston unless you go to Atataki. We'd also thought about going north to Sororo, but you're not allowed to go to Sororo unless you have clearance. And in theory, at least, you're supposed to go down to Atataki, which is a port clearance, so then you can go up. People have stopped at Sororo, even though they've been refused permission, and they haven't been in a lot of trouble. So anyway, so we had to sail on, and then we were going to go to Niue, but the problem with Niue is that it's completely open to any wind from the west, southwest, west, northwest, anything other than an east wind. You have to leave the moorings. They make you leave. They've got 18 moorings there. So it was a bit iffy. So our weather router, Bob McDavitt, was saying, he said, no, I don't think you'll be able to go there. And then what happened? So we then got in the mindset, okay, well, we're going to we'll do the 1800 miles all the way through to Tonga. And then the weather would have allowed us to stop in Niue. But by then we got this mindset, and then we were like, no, we'll keep going. Luckily, we had a mooring booked. So we gave it to another cruiser that we knew.
Had a mooring booked in Niue.
And then they got that mooring, and so many boats arrived in Niue, they had to lay more moorings to allow the cruisers to stay, but they could only stay
there was a system that was a little bit southwest, so and it was kind of gyrating. So
you can email Niue to the yacht club and reserve the mooring, and you have to pay for it. There's an online form if there's one available. But what those cruisers also discovered is that the reason that they had to lay the extra moorings is those extra moorings are in the way of where the ship comes into dock. So they could put the moorings down for a week only, and then those moorings have to go up, and those boats have to go, so the ship can get in. So there's only 18 moorings, kind of guaranteed. And in some winds, they have to take some of those 18 up as well. So anyway, so that's the story. So we went on to Tonga. Tonga, there is not very much at all in some ways. So there's no, in theory, you can get fuel alongside, but probably it's quite hard to do. There's really nothing there. But when you come in, it's like going into Venice or an inland sea. You go round and up and up and round. And eventually, when you get in, it's unbelievably calm. But
the check-in dock is a nightmare.
But it's also 30 to 40 meters deep, and there's only a limited number of moorings. So if there's no moorings, you have to either try and get up the side of the creek, but there's huge no mooring zones further up. You have to go onto the dock as soon as you arrive. The dock has a nasty concrete lip.
Yeah.
Not so much of a problem for Eyra because you're quite high, but a monohull which is lower, if there's any slot like that, you'll go crunch like that up into it. So
Shimshaw would have to have your fenders like right at the top
on the tow rail, and then on top of which is bits that stick out. So the customs dock is not nice. You have to go on the customs dock when you arrive. Otherwise, if you don't, they say it's a $2,000 fine if they catch you. And some people have said, yeah, they do actually enforce that. But the Tongans, having said all that, very friendly, very efficient, really
it's a
nice.
great cruising ground, loads of places to go. No, I mean, Richard's saying there's nothing there, and that there's nothing there on land, but there are loads of different anchorages. It's got quite a good variety, I would say. It looks completely different to anything else we've seen in Polynesia so far. It looks kind of like either Maine or the Pacific Northwest. It's very dense, dark trees and kind of rocky looking, and the whales were amazing. Yeah, they love. They've got loads of whales there, and they've got a very regimented whale watching system because there are so many whales. As Richard said, it's like an inland sea. So all whales come in to play, to birth, to raise their calves.
Are these
So-
humpbacks, Alexandra?
And big, small, everything. But there's a very regimented system. So boats only take, so you're not allowed to do your own whale watching as a cruiser at all.
That's
And
good.
you're really stay away from the whales. Stay
Yeah.
away from the whales. No dinghies, no nothing. You go with a tour, and it only takes 4 people into the water at a time. So we were on a boat with 8 people,
Yeah.
and so they would take 4 at a time with the instructor, and you would go, and the instructor saying was very clear about stay in these zones, stay next to me, don't do this, don't do that. When we were there, they said no diving, don't put your head down and your flippers up, because we're trying not to stress out the whales, and especially the moms with their calves. We just stay on the surface flat and observe. Don't do anything, to get the best Instagram shots or whatever. They were very particular about that, and that I think was very encouraging. And we had a fantastic experience. Really loved it.
But you can't get
scuba or snorkeling.
snorkeling. Oh, you're not
No,
allowed. Not allowed.
No,
not allowed
no
scuba. No
scuba,
chance.
no diving.
No, you're not allowed
They
to go
don't-
under the water.
They don't want you going under the water.
But the what I didn't realize that the pectorals on the humpbacks are 5 meters long, so you don't want to get anywhere near them. They're not like
They're very
other.
specific.
They're not like
Yeah.
other whales. So yeah, they're very specific. And the other thing is, because there might be more than one whale watching boat, if they take turns. So
They do
one,
take turns.
so another boat will put 4 people in the water, and then your boat will put 4 people in the water. Then another boat will put 4 people in the water. And all that sounds great,
It's an all-day thing.
but
it
we were
takes
7.5 hours in wetsuits in basically an open boat, which was doing 20 knots into a 20-knot wind. So you've got 40 to 50 of wind chill.
It was cold.
And and we had we'd taken our mustos with our waterproofs to put on top of the wetsuit, and we were absolutely frozen.
Interesting.
And we were there on a rainy day. I think that the other thing is that swimming with whales, so they try and drop you in front of the whale, so as the whale swims along. So the trick is to drop you in front of the whale, and the whale swims past you. But most of the time the whales don't cooperate, and it takes quite a long time and many so
we have completely different opinions.
We had-
of this.
it took-
I had a magical time.
it was
just like-
2 hours. We've been out. They picked us up at 7:30 on the
I
boat.
loved it.
It was 9:30 before the first person got in the water, before we found a whale that was near enough. I think it's better to go
That's enough
whale
of your-
watching
thank you
than
very much.
swimming. It's more whale watching.
Our Dutch,
It's very-
our Dutch friends, who you probably know from Shelter Bay, on Zero, Robert and Diane, they posted some amazing video footage. They were off Cape Cod, in the middle of a bubble net. The humpbacks were feeding all around them, and the bubbles were coming underneath the boat. And this went on for ages, just amazing. And they were just sitting there, just surrounded by whales breaching and feeding and bubbling, and extraordinary.
Going back to Tonga, there are some very good restaurants there. There's Mangoes, and what was the other one? There's 2 or 3 on the water, and at 8:30 every day except Sunday on Channel 26 as a VHF net tells you what's happening. It's very well organized. That's really good, and it's got a repeater across the islands. We did find though that there were a couple of really nice places to go, but if it blows, it's very deep. It's 30 to 40 meters, except when you come right up close to the shelf. There's not that many places in Vavo. You probably have to go a long way south, and so you'd need a month or more to explore it, really. And then when you leave, you're not allowed to stop anywhere at all in Fijian waters, and you have to have your AIS on. If you do anything that looks remotely dodgy to the Fijians. So you slow down, you stop, you do a circle, you go near an island. They put you into what they call their high risk category, which means they'll take your boat apart. And they're quite open about it. And if you arrive and they say, right, you know, and you'll be there for a week. So don't do anything like that. Just go straight from Tonga straight to, well, it depends where you're going. We went to the new marina, Naui, which is, I'll send you a video that I took in Sava. It is the most beautiful marina I've ever been in. And
he's been to a lot.
And I've been to a lot of marinas in my life, and unbelievably cheap. It's brand new. Yeah, it's just an awesome marina. And yeah, so we really like that. And there's not a lot to do around the place, you know. It's not
only
like
in Savu.
Yeah. So then we've left there, and we're now here in an island 45 miles away, on the way to the mainland of Fiji.
I mean, cruising in Fiji, you could take years.
Yeah, people say it can take years, but yeah, from Tonga, just make a booking at Naui and go in, and they're very strict on. So you're not allowed any pork of any kind whatsoever, and no honey. You're only allowed, and we didn't realize this when we were in French Polynesia, you can only have meat, as in steak or beef and chicken, if the packaging says it's from New Zealand or Australia. Just saying, well, it's from New Zealand. So we bought all this really nice Angus steak from Australia, and it said that on the shelf, and we got back and I didn't notice the packaging didn't say it was from Australia. So before we left Tonga, we had to give piles and piles of our meat and salami. You're not allowed any fresh fruit, any fresh vegetables, any dairy products. Basically, you come into Fiji with
seeds,
plants.
No.
Yeah, and they come on board and they ask you the questions, and yeah, so yeah, we had to stock up with food again. But they're very clear about it, and also the rules are basically the same in New Zealand.
Yeah. When
we go down to New Zealand, it's that the same? No fresh fruit, no vegetables. But much worse in New Zealand now is they've introduced new rules on biofouling. So essentially, you need to have your hull cleaned within 30 days of arriving in New Zealand. Fine. Except that late last year, the Fijian government banned any in-water cleaning of boats. So you can't clean your hull before you leave.
Can't get and give it a scrub before you sail to New Zealand.
Your only opportunity is to stop at Minerva Reef, which is kind of no man's land, and clean it. Or you have
cold.
Yeah, and cold. Or you have to haul in. So we're going to haul in Fiji. Even though we were alongside Eyra in October in Shelter Bay, so we're going to haul in Fiji.
Hold out, and we got our bottoms painted at the same time.
Yeah, we'll haul out in Voodoo on a trailer, which is the only place that will take us there, to clean the bottom so that we comply with that rule. You can also risk it, and maybe you'll be all right, maybe you won't. Or the other way around it is, you can book a haul out in New Zealand
within 24
hours of arriving, and they're quite happy to accept that. That's the other way of.
I think Papua has the contract to provide that service, don't they? An out and in within 24 hours of arrival and a complete scrub.
And Australia's rules are the same as New Zealand, so it doesn't make which of the two you go to. So yeah, but having said that, I think loads of people clean their boat in Fiji. I mean, we're here in Fiji. We went over the side tomorrow and cleaned the bottom. Who would say anything? No one. It's just a silly rule. So I don't think
Excuse me, that is why they are saying that cruisers are bad, because they're breaking the rules.
Well, we want to come out because we want to do. I want to put some rope cutters on the sail drive, so that's where we're going to come out. But so we have another reason. But yeah, so there's a bit of bureaucracy, but everyone is very friendly. Tonga, in Fiji, they're just so happy. I mean, the customs ladies,
everyone's been happy.
Customs, health, immigration that came on, it was all ladies, and they sat there and they were giggling away and happy, and they were asking serious questions, but they were just such happy people. Right. I've not found one here.
Anyhow, we've talked enough.
Isn't happy. So is that enough stories about
That's
Tonga,
great.
isn't it?
Eyra, tell us about Hal and Amanau and your eastern Tuamotus.
Your southeastern Tuamotu.
Well, so knowing that we needed to be back here in the Marquesas, we scheduled ourselves to leave from Makimo, and we went from Makimo to Hao, correct?
Tanea to Makimo, Makimo to Hao.
Yeah. And so we were in Hao for a good solid month. I know Richard, Hawkeye, they were there for quite a while as well, of course, at the beginning of the season. But so we were in Hao for a good month, waiting for a weather window to get up here back to the Marquesas. And so it was nice. We enjoyed our time there. It was relaxing. Again, no other cruisers there. So it was nice just to, you know, be by ourselves and enjoy the area. We waited for a weather window. We did not go to Amanu. We stayed in Hao the whole time. And then we got the weather window. We needed a 5-day weather window, right?
Mhm.
So we got that, and you can tell them about our sail. It was a good sail. I mean,
Yeah, we you know, basically the strategy the whole way from when we left Fakarava was to wait for one of these little systems to come through, where the winds would go north and then a little bit northwest, and then, you know, and we kind of took advantage of those clocking. So we actually had very good trips to all the little hops,
we did.
even into Hao, which was a 2 or 3 days, I think it took us to
It's
get in.
3 days, yeah.
So the strategy worked very well, and we left Hao and had one of those systems coming through where we got north winds. So we took that to go further east.
2 days of
Um,
going east.
Yeah, so we had fairly strong north winds for 2 days, and we pretty much got on line with
The same
Marquesas.
longitude as the Marquesas,
Yep.
and then we took a left turn.
And then we had 2 days of no wind.
Yeah.
So we actually motored. So we started to head northeast at that point,
Yeah,
or
we did.
north.
We wanted, yeah.
And then the east wind started, and we had a beautiful sail straight up to
Fatu Hiva.
Hiva. So
Yeah.
it got a little sporty at the end. You know, there was
A little, it was
confused
very
seas,
sporty.
but overall it was a very good trip.
So,
Can't
so
complain.
to sum it up, we gave ourselves plenty of time to get back here.
Yeah.
Because I know when we all arrived in the Marquesas last year in March, you know, we had met friends and cruisers that had come from the 2Os back to the Marquesas, and it's a tough haul to get back here. So we gave ourselves plenty of time. So we staged appropriately. And even though we staged appropriately, our 5-day passage, the last day and a half, it was quite sporty. But we knew it was going to be that way. And so 2 out of 5, we were like, okay with. So
you had easterlies coming back into Fatu Hiva, did you? Or?
Yeah, a little bit
Yes.
northeast, slightly north of east to east. Yeah.
Big swells. It was just really uncomfortable the last day and a half. It was just, you know, but you know, you can see the barn, you knew you were there, you did it. And we knew it had been a good passage overall. But the key was, if you're trying to get back to the Marquesas from the 2Os, you just have to give yourself time. Like I said, we were in Hao for a good month waiting for the weather window, you know.
And the weather window wasn't perfect, so it was
No.
kind of that decision: do we wait for the next one? But I'm glad we kind of took it, because I don't think there has been one since. So you know,
Right.
you got to take it when you can. When it's there, you just got to go grab it and do it.
Are
Yeah.
you guys doing your own weather routing, or are you using Predict Wind, Bob McDavitt,
David.
John Martin? Or?
We did Predict Wind, and I kind of thought there was going to be a window, and then we did consult with Chris Parker, because we still had some credits with him.
Yeah.
And he actually did a very nice job. And the weather was pretty much spot on, except for the first few days. He had predicted there would always be no wind, but it was actually fairly strong northerly winds. So, but he gave us a good strategy to make sure we went northeast for quite a ways, you know, and so that when the strong easterly winds came, we were at a better angle. So the strategy worked out very well. So I'm very pleased with what he did.
Yeah.
You didn't stay at Fatu Hiva long, huh?
So we got into Hiva like too early. So we
2
were
a.m.
maybe
in the morning.
2 in the
Because
morning.
the choice was, we're going so fast and it was so uncomfortable. I said, we got to get there. We just got to get there.
Right.
And so we get there at 2 a.m. Right. And of course it's no moon, you know, the scenario, right?
Yeah. So we first said, well, we'll try it in the dark. And then there were so many boats in there, we couldn't do it. So we basically turned off the engines and just floated until daylight. And we drifted half a mile.
So, and the crazy thing was, on AIS, it showed one boat. No Foreign Land showed one boat. And of course, when the sun came up, which of course takes a while because of course it has to come over those big, beautiful mountains, there were 10 boats in Hiva. 10. Yeah. So we had never been there before, but we've all heard the horror stories, what an awful anchorage it is. And especially knowing that the winds were picking up now. And so we anchored successfully, but then with
the boat behind us started swinging, we got really close to him, so we weren't comfortable. The weather was just going to get worse the next few days. Right. So we said, okay, we'll go to the other anchorage. Where there's a town anchorage, which is about 3 miles away or something.
Just south of it, the town anchorage there. I don't remember the name.
So we'll just go there until, you know, maybe somebody leaves and we can pick their spot. So we went over there and. It looked like Hawaii 5-0. I think they could have had the Surf Olympics there.
Oh, that's great.
That's how bad the swell was. So we said, well, that isn't going to happen. So then we just said, okay, then the only option is to come here. And I think that was probably our worst day of sailing because, you know, first of all, we hadn't slept. And then, you know, we had to rush to try to make it here before dark.
At 5:30.
And so we just got hit by two huge squalls that probably lasted a good 30 to 40 minutes.
It was crazy.
Hitting us with about 35 knots, which the good thing was we were making great speed. So we actually got here before dark, but it was miserable. We
were soaking. It was awful.
But then as we reached the corner of the island here, we had dolphins meet us. And we saw whales were spouting, and then the seas calmed. So it was all ended up being a fantastic day because, you know, it ended fine. So it was all great.
You put a brave face on it.
So we basically anchored for like 4 hours in Hiva and then ended up leaving because,
But the nice thing, Sally, is knowing that we're going to be here for whole cyclone season. You know, Hiva will go back to exactly. It just wasn't meant to be at this time, and it worked out wonderfully because, of course, we've just thoroughly enjoyed being here on Tahuatu. But yeah, it was quite a trip the last 24 hours trying to find an anchorage here. So yeah, it is interesting though because you know, AIS. I mean, we turn ours off when we're at anchor, as a lot of us do. But on No Foreign Land, like I said, there were 10 boats in Hiva. And I thought there was going to be one when we pulled into the anchorage. So it was, you know, it's just, I don't know. Yeah. It's curious. Yeah.
I think quite a lot of people turn their AIS off in Hiva if they've come in from the east and are making it as their landfall. We noticed that.
Yeah.
A couple of other boats.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's
I won't mention their names, but a couple of relatively well-known boats popped up in Hiva, having not checked in and not broadcast any AIS for ages. So I think that's actually quite common practice, but we should try and discourage that, shouldn't we? That's something that gives us all a bad name. And that was another thing these police guys were hot on was the check-ins.
Because in Iceland, it's mandatory to leave your AIS on. You have to have an AIS in Iceland. So it's countries could insist on. Yeah.
Or so we have to have our AIS on. In theory, every week we have to email the Fijian authorities to tell us where we are. But our agent, so we forwarded an agent. She said you don't need to do that if you have your AIS on all the time.
Yeah.
But I had not heard that. So, but
absolutely, yeah.
They've got a real problem in Fiji with drugs being smuggled in, including from Tonga, and so that's why they're so hot on it. And the Fijian Navy they had counter-piracy operations with the New Zealand and the Royal British Navy.
Tongans.
Well, I don't know about the Tongans, And then the Australians bought them the brand new patrol boat that they put on the reef last month. I don't know if you saw the pictures of it. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Simon, you should look at it. It's a brand new. It was a $20 million patrol boat, and it was a month old. And the Fijian Navy put it on a reef at an entrance to a harbour, not that far from here. And yeah.
Wow, gosh.
Good. Not good.
So, Eyra, you guys are hauling out in Hiva Oa next month, is it, or a couple of months' time, or what's your plan?
On the 20th. Yeah,
20th
on the
September.
20th. On the 20th of September, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're going back for the American elections, presumably.
Yes, we're going to go put our vote in.
Excellent.
Very good, fantastic.
We're watching, we're listening to.
I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for, but
Say again,
Yes, we
Meadows?
were what?
said I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for, but you can probably guess.
I think we know. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll haul out. So we'll just enjoy continuing what we're doing here and go back, haul out September 20th for probably about 6 weeks, and head back to the States, and then be back half of November, back here again.
By that time, Dewey will have come up to join you, huh?
What's that?
By that time, Dewey hopefully will have arrived back in Marquesas, huh?
Yep, exactly. They're heading this way eventually. I mean, they're on their way supposedly, so we'll be seeing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have met, like I said, a few people. Not a lot of cruisers yet, but I think now that we're here, and now like there's 9 boats with us here in Hanamana-Mia. And so we'll start to meet people, because at this stage, I think people are either going to be here for cyclone season, I don't think a lot of people, some of them are maybe going to the Tuamotu still.
Some may still, yeah.
Some may still be heading to the Tuos, because of course the winds are okay for them to head that direction. So we're excited to be exploring this area, because, as you know, we didn't have a chance to do it previously. So we're thrilled to be back here. Yeah. And
and we can relax. There's no more big passages. We just, we're basically near where we need to be. We're healthy, so everything is great. So this is our time to relax and get some boat projects done. And
Are you going to be back in the States for a couple of months, are you? Or?
Yeah, we're planning on 6 weeks. Our eldest son is getting married, so we're going back for a wedding. And so we'll be back for 6 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks.
And about 12 doctor's appointments.
Oh, we've got like,
So,
in 6 days, you've got like 14 appointments between the two of us. It's just like boom, boom, dentist, eyes, this,
Absolutely.
that.
We went through all of that about a month ago, but I landed and I got COVID when I got back. So the dentist didn't want to see me straight away.
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny you say that, Sally. So I actually, when I was going through the boat, of course, going through all my things, I actually pulled out quite a few masks. So I figure I'm going to start, we should probably wear them on the plane back, because COVID is on the rise statewide. So I pulled out some old masks to bring with us on our way back. I know. So yeah. And we'll get the vaccine as soon as we get home as well.
They just approved the new vaccine, so I think we'll get that as soon as we land.
So yeah.
So Val, the other day, she was eating some, what were we eating? Almonds? Almonds, and lost half of one of her tooth in the back. So that was another appointment.
Another
Another
appointment.
dentist.
I'm like, I need a new crown. I just lost half my tooth.
Oh, I saw a fantastic dentist in the Galapagos when my crown fell out. He was great.
So fortunately, knock on wood, I'm all fine, no pain, but it's just kind of like, so yeah.
It needs sorting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So our time will be 6 weeks if the doctors let us go.
I know.
Who knows what they're going to find and say, oh, no, you need this. No, you need it. So we're hoping that we can just come back after 6 weeks.
So we actually have an open-ended ticket on that end, just in case.
But Val, as the mother of the groom, you've got your outfit already? You know what you're gonna wear?
It's funny that you should ask. So when we went back from Minno's surgery, but he was just recovering, and I'm like, maybe I'll go look for my gown now. So I actually bought my beautiful gown when I was back for his surgery. So check.
All right.
It's meant to be.
I know.
And did you consult with your future daughter-in-law over what you were going to wear or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to be like the best mother-in-law. Absolutely. So I absolutely consulted with her. I showed her them. I had 3 different ones picked out. I modeled 2 of them. Oh, absolutely. I made sure 100%. It's all about her. Kind of.
Sounds like
Where's the wedding, Valerie? In Michigan.
So the wedding is in Greenville, South Carolina.
Oh, okay, warm. Okay.
So our future daughter-in-law is from Greenville, South Carolina. So it's just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's about an hour and a half away. So that's where they live, is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we've got the Europeans all flying in from Europe for the wedding. We've got the nephew from Australia. So it'll be like a family reunion for our side of the family. So it'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, so I have my Richard. I'm so glad you asked. I'm very excited about it. I'll send you a picture.
I'm looking forward to seeing a picture. Yeah, absolutely.
I know, Richard, your next question will be about me. So I bought my tux too while I was there in the States. So my son and I went and bought
your clothes,
They only write about Michelle Obama's clothes, not about Barack's. I've just finished reading Becoming. Michelle Obama's clothes. It's fantastic. Yeah, really good book.
Is it good?
It's really good. Really good. Yeah.
Is this Obama's book?
Michelle Obama.
Oh, I didn't know she'd written one. Oh, I might read that. I might read that.
I know, honey.
Look, it's great to catch up with you guys. I don't know where. Well, like, quite a few of the other boats are on passage, I think, aren't they? I know. Ruffian went into Saguaro, and are on passage, I think, to Tonga or Nui at the moment. I think Jamie and Sun Young were going to dial in, but I think it's probably slipped out of the memory. I think they're still in Moorea or Bora Bora or somewhere like that.
And we don't know if they bought a boat yet.
Yeah, we're keen to find out how many boats they have at the moment, or how many holes they have.
So I have
It
a
took us
question for the
24 hours to do the maths on exactly what time we had to join this.
Oh my goodness.
And then even then we got it wrong. So we joined last night.
I saw that. I get a thing that comes up on my screen saying Richard has joined your Zoom meeting. It was like 4 o'clock yesterday.
Okay, Richard, I'm so glad you said that, because last night we sat down for like 30 minutes and sat at the table trying to figure out what time. So Simon, next time you need to let us know. Val and Minnow, you check in at this time. Hawkeye checks in at this time, because it took us forever to figure it out.
The trouble is, if I do that, it'll all be completely wrong.
I found a trick on the calendar on my iPhone. You can actually say what time zone a meeting is, and then it comes up on the right time for the time zone you're in.
I finally found that.
Yeah, but the thing is that first of all, if you go to Tonga, it's what's known as the false date line. So there's that you've got that to contend with, and then once you get out of the false date line, bear in mind Tonga is false because that's plus 13, which doesn't exist. Then you have to contend with the fact that once you get to Fiji, it depends whether New Zealand is on daylight saving time or not. It's whether it's the same time as New Zealand, and work back from there. And it's unbelievably difficult. Which day of the week is it?
I tried to send an e-card to my sister, and her birthday is on the 26th of August. And so I was sending it from over the date line. So then it was impossible.
It's pretty difficult, the Northwest Passage too, because there are 9 time zones within the Northwest Passage, and they're going through different time zones every couple of hours, it seems, because they're all so compressed up there.
Some are going east and some are going west.
So trying to coordinate those has been a bit of a nightmare, but they're all through the Northwest Passage, so it's great, very exciting times for them.
Anyway, we're trying to get fit again. We're off cycling in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I saw your hair
scything. It's
scything.
It's like Poldark. Remember
the Poldark's nearly finished now. We've done the scything, but we're off bicycling. So we're flying to Vienna with our bicycles and cycling down through Slovenia down to Trieste, and then catching the train back up to Sally's sister in Obergurgl.
Yeah.
So are you going to cycle for like how many hours a day and then spend the night somewhere and continue
Yeah.
on, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
3 weeks.
And
Well,
lots of coffee shops.
Viennese
How
coffee.
exciting.
Is there wine tasting involved? Because you don't want to be a little bit.
I'm not sure about Austrian wine. Isn't it full of antifreeze or something?
That's a long time ago.
Even I remember that. That must be at least 20 years ago.
20.
30, I
That
think.
was it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. So maybe if we could catch up. What are we now? We're end of August, aren't we? So
In the middle of October.
we're going to be back from our cycling middle of October, late October. You guys will be on passage down to New Zealand. How about we try and catch up in early November? Does that sound all right?
Yeah, we can catch up anytime,
We can.
including on passage.
We have Starling.
Yeah, and also we've got my children coming, so they'll be driving. So we'll just be relaxing, right?
Yeah.
We'll see if any events pop up that make us want to contact sooner, but we'll aim for the beginning of November. You guys will be in your wedding gear by then, will you?
I'll send you the gown picture.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
That sounds good.
And your tuxedo, of course, as well, Menno.
Thank you.
Not that we're remotely interested in that.
I was feeling a little bit left out here, so I appreciate that.
And I must say how fantastic that photo was of Alexandra with the manta rays at night. That was just so brilliant.
Oh yeah.
It was a gift. A
Awesome.
gift.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But where you were on a Mana Bay or whatever it is, that was what we call Manta Bay, Ray Bay.
We also
The
had
mantas
loads of
there were
mantas
really
there.
awesome there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I
But
swam
I-
with them today.
I didn't think to swim with them when we were there, but then I'd heard that other people swam with them, so I thought, well, I'll get in.
Yeah, she did.
That was at Muppeteer.
That photo is amazing, though. Amazing.
You don't understand how huge it was. And I sent it to my mother, and she said, Alexandra, this is not something you should be sending to your mother. Also, anytime I saw and her, like, I was like, oh, look, the wall of sharks. Oh, me with a shark. No, Alexandra, this is not something you should be sending to your mother.
But that photo of her with the with the manta ray, I was there with the big SLR camera, and it took I don't know how many shots to get that to work
Really.
with the telephoto lens, and it was very
Worth it, Richard.
difficult.
It was worth it.
Yeah,
It
it was
was.
worth it. It's
It was
perfect.
amazing.
Beautiful.
I know. It's so good seeing you guys again. I miss all of you.
Brilliant. Thanks
Yeah,
very
great
much.
to see you.
Thanks very much for dialing in. Lovely.
All right.
Good night. Good
Great
morning.
night.
Good night.
Guys,
Whatever.
have a good day.
Good Friday. Good Thursday. Right. How do we
All
get
right.
out?
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Yeah,
Where's the news?